Okay, our next, we're going to move to old business, English curriculum proposal.
Okay, so I'd call up Ms. Kristen Smetana, Assistant Principal, and Ms. Sarah Johnson, Department Chair for English, to remind the board, and as you saw in the write-up in the board packet, we discussed this in May very thoroughly, in April. The board had a few minor recommendations. They wanted to go back and look at a few titles and correct a few things. The only reason I had to wait till July is because then of the graduation, the end of the school year, summer vacations, with some of the administrative staff. We had to bring this back in July. Otherwise, I would have brought this back probably 2 weeks later, just with the few minor changes the board recommended. Prior to that board meeting in April, the advisory council did see this proposal. We've discussed it at length. I'm just trying to fill in some space here because there has been 2 or 3 months since we discussed this last. And from that, I will turn it over to Ms. Smetana and Ms. Johnson.
Hello.
Welcome. We don't
Thank you.
bite, so can.
Thank you. We're here to highlight changes to the updated proposal and take any questions you might still have.
You want to just briefly summarize the rationale?
Sure. If you look on, I'm not sure what page it is in your.
95 for the board.
We are looking to realign just the grade 12 or senior year curriculum to connect more with the Common Core state standards, which are coming our way very quickly. We're also concerned about our PSAE data and reading, and that would suggest that we need more work in the senior year in reading and writing. We're looking to take care of that. And then lastly, we believe that extended time in reading and writing is a department value that we share, and we're hopeful that aligning in such a way that we have more time with students in that senior year will give us the extended time we need to address their concerns and our concerns.
One of the concerns that was brought up by the board is that usually when we make a curriculum change, we try to do it with an incoming freshman class so that we do not upset a student's four-year plan. But with the implementation of the Common Core coming in 14-15, Ms. Smetana and Ms. Johnson worked with the student services staff, and you'll see bullet number 6 on their rationale. They checked with the 43 students who were enrolled in one of those English elective courses. If you want to just provide a brief follow-up on that.
Of the 43, I talked to almost every one of them one-to-one, and only 4 of those were intending to take a class for senior year credit ahead of their senior year, meaning that the impact which we were asked to look at was minimal. And Ms. Smetana, Ms. Bilesman, and I can all work with them to make sure that if those plans were adversely affected, that we can grandfather that in or in some way provide them what they were intended to get.
Board policy allows whenever we have a waiver or a change that it gives the principal flexibility to work with those individual students. So I would recommend to the board that if we approve this tonight, that we would just give Ms. Bilesman, the principal, the same flexibility. This really should impact those students really that are going to be they're sophomores now when they're picking classes in November as juniors, correct? For their senior, or they're juniors, they're going to be juniors August 13th, and when they pick classes for their senior year, that might be impacted. Those 4 students, Ms. Bosma would have the flexibility. Everybody else should be fine under this curriculum proposal.
And they were juniors, primarily.
Okay. The proposed changes are on the page 96. That's the chart, correct?
This might be where you need some clarification.
You just tell us what changed.
Sure. No change to AP Lang. The Honors Shakespeare Seminar would extend into a year-long course from a semester course. Honors Latin American Lit and World Lit A and B would be collapsed into a World Literature and Composition class. The 4 Contemporary Lits would be collapsed as well into a Contemporary Lit Communication and Critical Thinking. And then we would pull one of those contemporary lits out and offer it at the very bottom on the right side of the chart as a film studies class for non-departmental credit but elective credit only. The existing semester-long electives would continue, provided obviously that we got enough enrollment to run those classes on an elective basis. So they would not get English credit.
I guess I should. This isn't different than what you proposed the last
Slightly
time,
different.
right? What's changed from what you proposed the last time? That's what I meant.
One title.
One title, that's the fourth bullet point on the right side, contemporary lit, communication and critical thinking.
Okay.
And
I think all the titles changed because we added the composition
Mhm.
also to, so they're a little more descriptive to a university that's looking over the transcript of one of our students, that it says honors Shakespeare seminar and composition, so they know it's not just going to be a literature-based course, but that it's going to be a writing-intensive course as well. So
we also sought to continue to offer the same kinds of options. So you can see it goes hierarchically from AP honors to a college prep literature class to the contemporary lit, which would certainly be college preparatory, but perhaps more responsive to those students who struggle with reading and writing.
So my question to you then is, we're proposing this, how are we setting up reviews to make sure that we don't need to make tweaks as we go further? You know, what we propose is to make a change on this, how we're going to be monitoring to make sure that maybe there more changes need to be made, or is it meeting what our needs to increase this reading score?
Well, I think one way to look at it would be to look at the graduation rate. Some of our neediest students end up taking 3 or 4 senior English classes at a time. So we're hoping that that responds to them. Certainly, students continue to take ACT tests into their senior year to increase their scores, so that's something I would like to look at. We're also looking at a number of, obviously AP, right, but that's not really what you're talking about, I don't think, so much. Lastly, we're looking at some testing assessment options that are starting with our freshmen, but which may continue to grow into the grade 12 year, provided they give us the data we need. They're in a pilot basis next year. We're pilot basis this year, pulling it fully into English 9 next year.
And then how are you, because writing skills and even reading skills vary by, if you took a whole group of students, it varied by that. How do you help those that are underperformers with, you know, because the overachievers are definitely going to be good, but how are you going to deal with the bottom section of that?
That's a great question. One of my goals for this year as a new chair is to look at our writing instruction in the grade 12, all grades, but particularly at grade 12, and address that in our PLC meetings on Thursdays. How can we use the AP and the Common Core as a benchmark and scaffold that for students who really struggle with that? At this point, we have a difficult time serving that bottom quartile of students because they're all over the place. They could be in debate or creative writing. So one of the hopes is that in streamlining those options, that we can create assessments and monitor those assessments consistently. So it's pretty hard to look at a student in creative writing and a student in debate and a student in contemporary lit B and see if they're getting the same growth, if that makes sense.
And I think that your question, Mr. Cindy, was really what motivated the English department to revamp this curriculum, is that students that were weak in that area, they tend to want to avoid what they don't like doing, and so they could make selections with their different electives to avoid writing altogether, and they felt that was disserving those students, and that really this is, as Ms. Johnson said, puts them all together, and we then can do more kind of systematic assessment of them and see how they're growing and developing, rather than allowing them to avoid working at that and improving.
And are we coordinating with other departments, such as science, if they need to write a paper, to be able to coordinate to make sure the skills that are being taught in this focus is going to be used for the other departments to help them succeed over there too?
That would be great down the line. I believe this would allow us to do that more. Right now, there's not a guarantee that a student would be enrolled in a science that is connected with this class, but
Yeah.
we've certainly been doing that in the junior year with the research paper and
Right. We do that
American
a little
history, U.S. history.
Earlier in their 4-year, then we don't want to wait till senior year.
Right, we do.
We
And
do
we
that a
have
little bit.
comprehensive research projects in the freshman and sophomore years that have been going for several years now.
But I
That-
think that, like you said before, I think it starts at the beginning and keeps on building up skills and
Yes.
everything like that. Like Kevin said, we don't want to wait till senior year, but being able to enhance that so that on their senior
Right.
year, they're really honing that skill to be the best that they can be, you know.
We had a very successful, I don't know what, Institute Day / close look at writing in our Western Civilization classes and English 9 classes this year that I believe will continue on. That is in line with both Common Core and AP, scaffolding that back to English 9. So I look forward to that, certainly in the future.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a comment. We talked about this in our Kevin's
Mm-hmm.
committee. And I made a point about this critical thinking, and I noticed that you've changed the title, which is good. I mean, I'd encourage you to develop that. Maybe we can revisit. I'd sort of like to see that part of the curriculum. I think, in today's society, you see this cognitive bias everywhere. And if you can incorporate this component, critical thinking, in all of, in all the English classes in some fashion, I think would be relevant. So I just encourage you to do that as a board member.
Plus, I think the people watching the TV tonight, when we set that lofty goal of that high score level, it's pushing both staff and the school together to try to, instead of saying, okay, we're going to try to shoot for this, by going for that higher goal, it's pushing everybody to try to achieve that. It's setting a milestone to go down that we want to hit at. So I think it's good that you're addressing this and working out, so,
I think that we're talking about the same thing, to be able to look at that much sharper.
okay.
Let me ask one other question, if you don't mind. Between the two of you or some of the other English teachers, so even though we didn't approve this, I presume, are these the courses that are going to take effect this year now?
No.
Or next year, right?
Next year.
Just
These are the courses
clarifying.
that this year's juniors will have a chance
So-
to pick in November.
Which is
for
what
their
you were
senior
saying in reporting, why they're juniors. And
Right.
so you have, the first half of the year to develop the course outlines and what books you're going to use and all
Right.
that. and-
We have 2 of our veteran teachers charged with that this year, and
Okay.
what are appealing novels, how can we look at essays and projects that address critical thinking, communication skills. That's one of their focuses this year.
Okay, thank you.
Great job
Thanks.
developing this and listening to people, and not saying I have the answer, but listening to people and being able to modify it, so.
Kristen, do you have anything you want to add? Are you, as our curriculum and instruction person, you're...
I'm very excited about this proposal. I think it's great for seniors to have the ability to spend an entire year with one teacher to really develop their reading and writing skills. So I'm really excited about being able to hopefully implement this, not this year, but the following year.
And Sarah did touch real quick in relation to board goals. One of our 2 board goals, composite ACT and graduation rate.
Right.
Students take that ACT junior year, and that's the one the state looks at. But what a lot of school districts highlight is that students should take the ACT multiple times before they graduate, especially right before that fall early admittance or that winter admittance period for colleges. So having another semester of English to fine-tune skills and then sit down for, a last, I don't want to say last ditch, but a late ACT to try to get into a bigger school or to raise our composite ACT, this does directly relate to that. So good job on relating it to that.
All right, do I have a motion on this, please?
Resolved that the Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois hereby adopts the English curriculum proposal with the proposed start date for the 2014-2015 school year affecting the 2015 cohort as presented in the July 9, 2013 Board Agenda Packet.
Have a second? Second. Second by Ed Jepson. Any other discussion? Mary Ann?
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Mr. Jepson?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Gritchen?
Yes.
Mr. Cindy?
Yes. Thank you very much. We really
Thank you.
appreciate all your hard work and everything.
Thank you, good job.
If you could do us a favor, probably in another year or so, let us know what's going on with it. We
Happy
would
to.
appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.